Pete on the line talking Clemson football and the ACC. Let's talk about these guys leaving, heading on to the next level. There's a whole bunch of them. 3 guys declared early. You can just kind of pick them off as you'd like in regards to who you think could be a star at the next level, impact player, just your thoughts about who transitions well.
Yeah, so obviously I think Dexter Lawrence and Christian Wilkins are the 2 biggest stars on the defense that I think are going to be drafted in probably both in the first round. Definitely, I think maybe both in the top 20 for sure. And I think that they will, they are NFL players last year. So I think they'll fit in wherever they go as far as the defensive line goes. Austin Bryant, I think, is a good player. And if he goes to the right situation, and I think he'll be successful too. But he's not a first round guy, I don't think. I think he's probably going to go somewhere in the early or mid second round. Trayvon Mullen is an interesting prospect at cornerback. I think he was rated to be the 3rd or 4th best cornerback in this draft, which was actually kind of shocking because you look at the talent that's coming out. Listen, this NFL draft this year is so heavy on defense. It might be a historic defense draft. We might not see a running back in the first round at all for the first time in I don't know how long. I don't know. I tend to think you won't see a running back go in the first round. But the cornerbacks and the defensive linemen in this draft are just ridiculous. I think Hunter Renfrow is probably the biggest sort of diamond in the rough. And obviously I'm biased on that, but I think that the way that the NFL is changing, these slot receivers that have very good hands and can run routes well and that are smart, you're seeing this as a premium position now all over the NFL. And there's a lot of jokes that he'll end up at New England because they like the white slot receivers. And, listen, that might be true. But I think there's a lot of teams, Houston, Oakland, San Francisco. Now, what round he'll go in is a complete unknown. He could fall as low as the 6th round, and I wouldn't be shocked if he went as high as the 3rd round. So everyone's really keeping an eye on him because I think he's a game changer. I think he'll be a good pro, but he's certainly not a first-round talent. But I think that if he gets picked up in the later rounds, he'll be a steal for whoever gets him. Kendall Joseph at linebacker, maybe a mid-round pick. I don't know. He's an unknown too. Listen, he's a great player at Clemson. I'm not sure that with all the great linebacker talent in this draft and just in the NFL in general, unless he really outperforms what we think he can do, I don't know how he'll translate. Mark Fields is another defensive backer I think is very good. He's probably a mid-round pick.
Yeah, the guy that comes to mind when you run them all down in terms of who was the most fun for me to watch, and I'm going to put Hunter Renfrow in a different category, was Austin Bryant, because I love those guys that I can just single out as, wow, okay, it's 3rd and 8. They're coming off the edge. Here they come. Let's see if they get to the quarterback because they just make disruptive plays. They're just freakish athletes. They get the size, the speed, the long arms, and just seeing them line up against the left or right tackle and do their thing, I think is a whole lot of fun. So I loved watching Austin Bryant. And then Hunter Renfrow, as you mentioned, if you graded him, if you had every NFL team grade him and where they would select him, his average might be very low, fairly low, but all it takes is one team to love that guy. And I think that's where the thought process on him is sporadic. And so there's probably a handful of teams at least that might be really high on him. And it just takes the right fit or the right perceived fit for one team to jump out and say, hey, yeah, this guy is a player. Forget the measurables at the NFL Combine. Grab him.
Yeah, and if you look at his numbers as far as catches and touchdowns, if you look at it over his career, aren't overwhelming or anything. But if you look at his catchable ball percentage, he led the past 2 years. In 2017, he had 0 dropped passes that were catchable, which I think is the only guy in the country that did that. Last year, he had 1 drop that was catchable. So that is an astronomical number. And if you look at, I think his speed is underrated. I think his route running is underrated. I think he's extremely smart and clutch. So all those things translate to the NFL well. Like you said, I think it just depends on the team he goes to, and the quarterback he's got throwing him the football also really plays a big part in it.
I saw a graphic while watching the NFL Draft Combine this past season where they showed the top receivers in the NFL. You know, the AJ Greens and the Antonio Browns and Julio
Right.
Jones and all those guys who had the most yardage and catches over the last 5 or 6 years. And you think of those guys as being freakish athletes, and they are, but they showed their 40 times against the best 40 times for the wide receivers that ran this year and the best players, the defensive backs thrown in. And they weren't impressive. They were in the 4.5 and 4.6 range. So I know that the NFL puts a premium on speed, and football fans do, but you know they're not running in a straight line most of the time, and then they throw pads on them, and it's just, yes, it means something, but the absolute burners aren't necessarily the best players. Dante Pettis came out of Washington a couple years ago. He made no, I'm thinking of John Ross. John Ross came out of Washington. Yeah. A couple. Dante Pettis was the other guy at Washington.
John Ross ran a 4.2.
Yeah. And no, he's not going to be a very good receiver in the NFL, I don't think. He hasn't shown it to date.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more about that. Well, this is a whole other video. We can go on this for an hour. But I think that size, and when I mean size, I don't mean their weight or their muscular build or anything. I mean how tall they are. Like Kyler Murray. I think that height and speed are important, but they're vastly, vastly overrated in the way that the NFL game is played today.
Absolutely. Talking Clemson football, the NFL draft, and the ACC with Pixie and Pete. I encourage everyone out there to look him up here on YouTube. Just search Pigskin Pete. You'll find him talking Clemson football and lock it in right there. All right. We appreciate you stopping by, man. It's been a great conversation.
Hey, listen, with all this March Madness stuff going on, it's good to get on the phone with somebody who still wants to talk about college football, because everyone else seems to forgot about it.
Oh, you know, we're locked in on college football all the time.
I hear you, man.
All right.
But thanks for having me. It's been great.
All right, man. Next time, I want you to bring a little bit more energy, a little more passion, maybe be a little more optimistic about the day.
Well, I can't promise anything.
Hopefully, we'll catch you on a better day.
Yeah.
All right, man. We appreciate it. Have a good one.